If your locomotive stops or stalls over top of a turnout, you're probably using insulated frogs or insul frogs if it's a pico. I'm going to show you how to turn those insulated frogs into powered frogs so you won't have that problem anymore. So let's get going. Hi, I'm Tom Kovichak, and this is Tom's Trains and Things. This channel was created to help other modelers who are in need of guidance in pursuing their dream of building a model railroad. And if you had some old Shinohara turnouts that are insulated frogs, or some old Pico turnouts that are insulated frogs, I'm going to show you how to turn those frogs into powered frogs. Now, if you have an Atlas turnout, like this right here, you'll notice there is a hole right there where you can attach a wire. You could either solder it on there carefully, or you could put a small screw, probably a number 4 screw with a nut on it, and attach the wire to the bottom. Now you can see the Shinohara frog is a little bit different than the Pico frog right here. The Pico frog, each side of the frog is insulated from the other side. So we're going to have to add 2 wires to this. But on the Shinohara frog, this is all common. So all of this has the same potential on it. So we only have to put 1 wire on the bottom of this. And on the Pico, we're going to have to put 2 wires on it. Right here on the Shinohara, where I have my finger, is where we're going to cut. You can see the little webs right here in between the ties. That's where we're going to have to cut to solder on the bottom of the frog. That is going to be right up in here. And this is this is a turnout that I pulled out. You can still see some of the ballast stuck to the ties. This is one that I already did. And you can see you got a clear shot at the bottom of the frog right there to put the wire on. And here is a Pico. And on the Pico, each side of the frog is insulated from the other side. This side is completely isolated from that side. So we're going to have to put 2 wires on there. And I'll turn it over here. There's 2 jumpers on there that go from the rail down here to the rail up here. What we're going to have to do is move these out of the way and cut right in here. Cut some of the tie and some of this plastic out of the way on here and over here, so we could solder a wire here and here. But what we'll do is we'll move these wires up out of the way so we don't foul them right now. But what we do, once we get the wires soldered on there, we'll be able to push these back into the little slots. Now what I have here is some Cat 5 cable that I stripped apart. I got 8 conductor right here. So you could use anything. You could even use the old telephone wire twisted pair. I think it's either 24 or 26 gauge. I have some 22 gauge that I put on one turnout already. And it's kind of large. The insulation on it is kind of big. This is the Pico right here that I did. And as you can see, it's the insulation on here, even though it fits in between the ties. And even you could even put a hole or 2 holes down through the bottom, so you won't see the wires. But this is what it would look like from the top. Anyway, here's a finished Pico right here. But I'm gonna show you how to do it with. You could even put it in between the ties, but you got to cut the web over here so it'll fit underneath the rail. But I'm going to show you how to do it with a lighter gauge wire. This is 22 gauge right here, and it's a little bit heavy. It works, but I'm going to do it with a lighter gauge wire. Let me put the other wire up against this to see what the difference is. Now you can see the difference of the thickness of the wire. The Cat 5 cable is about half the thickness of it. You can see right here that I cut away on both sides. This is on a straight rail. The wire is moved out of the way so I could have access to the bottom of the frog. And on this other side, didn't have to move the wire, but I also cut in there to give me enough room to get my soldering tip down in there. And you could also see that I tapered the bottom of the frog, or tapered the bottom of the tie, just so I could angle it in there. I tapered both of them so I can get there on an angle. And you can see the wire is up out of the way. So we got plenty of room to solder in there. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of flux on the area right here that I'm going to be soldering. Make sure it's on there. Okay, I got to turn the soldering iron on. Let it warm up a little bit, and I got the Cat 5 cable, and I determined it was a number 26. So, okay, we're ready to go. I'm going to try not to get anything in the way here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of dab of solder on the area, and this is the easiest way to do it since it's such a small area. I got a little bit more room on this one here than I do on the Pico, but I'm just going to put a big glob of solder on the iron and make sure I get down and heat up the rail and not just drop the solder on there. So once the rail's hot, so we got some solder in there. So you can see that we got a glob of solder in there. That'll make it a little bit easier to heat this thing up. Now I'm going to try not to get my hands in the way when I'm doing this. So I'm right there and try not to heat up the tie. Okay, so that's it. That was pretty easy on the Shinohara. So, as you can see right there. And we'll just clean that up. Now, the Pico turnout is going to be a little bit more difficult because I have two of them and it's a smaller area. So, I'll put some on there, and I'll do the same thing. Let me grab some wire here, and we'll take a, let me see, we'll take a black and a red. Just going to bend that a little bit. Bend this one. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other one. I'm going to put a dab of solder in there so it makes it a little bit easier. Since I don't have three hands, one for the soldering iron, one for the wire, and one for the solder, we're just going to dab a piece of solder down on there and make sure we're heating up the rail when we're putting the solder on there. Okay, so we got it on that side, and we'll do it on the other side. And you want to make sure that you heat up the rail and not just drop the solder on there. Because if you just drop the solder on there, it's not going to stick. Okay, so now let's get us a good angle here so we can get it down in there. Try to get this so it's not slapping me in the face. Okay, so I hope I got a good angle on this right here. Not quite sure if you could see it, but you'll get the idea. But we just want to go in there and loosen up that solder and then put the wire down on there. So we're going to set the wire up on top of the solder and put the iron right up on top of the wire and just let it melt in there. Oops. Let's do that again. Okay. So we got that side there. And when you're soldering, make sure you just put a little bit of solder on the tip of your iron so it transfers the heat a little bit better. Get this the right direction. Put this down on there. Okay. Just let it set in there until the solder cools down and then you got a good connection. So there we go. We got that one. So we got a good connection there. So both our turnouts, there's the Pico turnout with the 2 wires on there, and we could turn this anyway. We could put this down through the bottom of the layout. All we have to do is move these 2 wires back to where they were before, and they're down low enough that I don't think we'd have to worry about them hitting anything. But if they do, you could put any kind of like liquid tape in there just to make sure that they're not touching. So we're going to test this out with the meter and check it here. Okay, so we got continuity, and I'm testing it on the other rails to make sure that we don't have it shorted out. So we're good to go. It's on the frog on the left hand side, and do the other wire on the frog on the right hand side, and no short between the rails. So we're good to go on that. Okay, that's all we're going to do on this one here. I'm going to show you how to hook this up with a tortoise switch machine, a relay, or a caboose manual throw in the next video. So we could get this thing going, and it's just like you would do a regular electro frog that's already manufactured with the powered frog. So until the next time, we'll see ya.